record. Okay, great. Okay, so a few logistics. I know many of you are not new to Zoom calls, but you heard if you want to rename yourself, you just hover over your picture. There's 3 dots in the top right corner. You can click on that and push rename. Please go ahead and add your school name or organization that you're from next to your name so we know where you're from. If you want to add your pronouns, that's great also. If you want to ask any questions or say anything during the meeting, if you hover at the bottom of the Zoom screen, you'll see the chat icon. Just click on that. It'll pop open on the right, and you can put any comments you have or add questions as they come up during this initial part. There's also participant buttons to the left of the chat where you'll be able to see everybody who is in the meeting. And then if there's a point when you want to raise your hand or any of the other actions underneath more, that's where you find those. All right, and just one note, because I'm thinking about it, we're going to be doing breakout sessions tonight, and we'll be assigning you kind of randomly. And just so you know how the chat function works in breakout rooms, you're only chatting with the people who you're in a breakout room with. If you try to throw something into the chat, not everybody in all the breakout rooms will see it. It's only your breakout room, just so you know. Okay, I think that is it for logistics. Now just for a few announcements. I'm going to have Carrie put a couple of links. You may have seen on the president and treasurer listservs, we put some surveys that we are conducting right now. They are just to get some ideas of what went really well at your schools last spring when we started distance learning. So if there's something that worked really well that you think might benefit somebody else in the district, something you might be planning to do again with your school community, put that in there. Put those ideas in there, and then also maybe there's something that didn't work so well but you learned from and you'd like to suggest as a way to improve as we're moving into the fall. So there's about
do you like your time for lunch?
What was that? So that is
somebody's not muted.
Yeah, no problem. So there's about 4 different big topic areas in that survey, so please feel free to do that. We're going to collect responses all the way until Sunday night, and then we're going to publish them, make all of the results, just the raw data, open to the public on Monday, and I'll send that link around and you can share it with anybody you want to. That way we all have access to all those ideas that are being shared. We also just sent around this morning, we have a Spanish version of that survey, thanks to Melissa Carvajal at Mission, who helped out with that. That link is also in the chat. So please share those around. If you have teachers, principals who want to also share ideas there, that would be great. So that's the survey. And then I want to let you know that next Wednesday night, our 411 meeting is going to be a town hall with Dr. Matthews. So we'll be sending that link out probably tomorrow. Feel free to share it with anyone you want, anyone at your school, anybody else in the district who might be interested in hearing from him. We are going to have a deadline of submitting questions by Sunday night so that we have time to give him those questions. I suspect he probably knows what those are because there's been lots of public comment at board meetings and lots of feedback given in a lot of different ways. But just so you know, we're just putting that deadline there so I can give all of those questions to him as we prepare. But it'll be a similar format to how we did it back in May. So invite anybody you can there. The following week, we are going to do a 411 meeting on building a PTA membership campaign during COVID. So if you have a membership chair or anybody else who's leading your membership efforts, please go ahead and invite them, but anybody's welcome to come. It's not just membership people. And then the following week, on August 19th, we're going to be doing a session that is about managing stress and supporting at-home learning. And I mean managing parent stress. So a lot of us were trying to balance a lot of different things in the spring, and we want to give you some tools to support yourselves and your families as you go through this. Learning how to navigate this uncertainty in a healthy way and managing our expectations for ourselves and for everybody else we're interacting with, and be able to support our kids through it. And looking at how maybe we can redefine what success means during a crisis like this. So we'll have a special speaker coming that day. So those are the ones that are firmed up for sure. You'll see links coming through pretty quickly for all of those. So watch for that on those listservs. And again, you're welcome to invite anyone you want to attend those. We're just going to send them out through that, and we'll make Facebook events also that you can share out with your communities. All right, so that's the announcements. As far as what tonight looks like, we're going to go through a bit of high-level information first on a couple of things, and then we're going to do breakout sessions that are going to be about 25 minutes long. We'll divide you up into groups of about 5 or 6 people, and I saw that there was a request here about having breakout rooms for middle and high school members, and that is something that I was definitely thinking about. So when we get about to break out into groups, maybe we can do a hand raise for people who want a specific middle high breakout, and I'm happy to assign you out that way. And then we're going to come back and do a very brief report out, and I'll explain more how the breakout sessions will work in a minute. But what we wanted to start with is some information, just general information about what is happening right now. So there's, let's see, let me get my screen up here on my end with my notes. So the school board approved a fall learning plan last night. I'm going to ask Carrie to also put some links in the chat box in case you haven't seen these documents. There's both a slide deck and a written report that gives you, it's pretty high level overview. There was also an email that the superintendent just sent out to all families tonight. It just came through, so you may have seen it, you may not have even seen it yet. That is pretty good, and it has a couple of links, 2 pages on the district's website that get into some of the details, but again, there's not a whole lot of details. And so I wanted to share some of the high level information that was shared in the meeting last night with you, and then you can look through those links if you have more questions. Excuse me. So as you all know, we're starting with distance learning, remote, no in-person learning at the beginning on the first day of school on August 17th. And we have been told that we cannot open in person unless our county has not been on the monitoring list for the state for at least 14 days. So they haven't set a time because we have to wait and see what the virus does. We don't know when schools will be able to move to phase 2, which is a hybrid learning model, not just distance, and it won't be full in person, but it will be some sort of a hybrid that has still to be determined. But it definitely cannot happen until San Francisco has not been on the monitoring list for 14 days. In this presentation that is linked, you'll see a bunch of information they collected from parents, from caregivers, from students, from educators and other district staff about what questions they had and concerns they had, and there were some big themes that emerged from that. Pretty clear that people care about safety most, and they want to make sure their families and their kids are safe, that our staff are safe. That was a theme through all the meetings, and I attended 3 or 4 of the town halls, and that was definitely consistent across all of them. Everybody agrees that students benefit most from in-person learning, and that the connection between our students and their teachers and our families is all really, really important. And so that's going to be a priority as soon as they're able to make that happen in person. They heard from all of us that we really need consistency and communication as we enter the fall. And then there was different experiences that people had between schools. So they're looking to provide that. They know that we all need consistent access to technology and the internet, and there is still some work to be done there. They made a lot of progress, but they have more to do. They're looking to try to provide technology for pre-K to 2nd grade this fall. I know that they're still trying to identify funding to be able to do that, but they realize that that our younger students also need to be connected, that's really important to them, and that there's a lot of relationships we need to strengthen with partners in the city and other nonprofits who support our schools so that we can meet our families and our students' needs. So those are pretty consistent themes across all of the town halls. So as I mentioned, phase 1 is going to be all distance. Phase 2 is a hybrid model, and they're looking at perhaps bringing back some of the highest priority groups first, and definitely not everybody at the very beginning, but the highest priority groups they're talking about are younger students, like pre-K to 1st grade, the very young ones who really struggle to do remote digital learning. Some of our students who are receiving special education, especially the moderate to severe students, our homeless students and foster students, and the students who were they were minimally engaged during the spring. And I don't know if they're just looking at what they did in the spring, or if they're going to look and see how the first couple months of school goes, and pull that group of students from who maybe needs more support and engagement at the beginning of the year. I'm not sure how they're defining that, which time period they're using to define that. But those are the groups that they said were likely to be the highest priority groups. And then phase 3 would be in person. Again, they have no idea when this will happen. It just depends on what the virus does and how spread is in our own county. The state law that was passed that set out the requirements for distance learning requires daily instruction. It depends on your grade level, but it's in between anywhere in between 3 to 4 hours a day. They talked about a first 30 days plan, which I'm personally very curious about, that looked like it was sort of a phased approach. I know a lot of us are looking for ways that we're going to be able to communicate with our schools and make plans and train and build community. And so it looks like that might be built in, but there weren't a lot of details in the plan yet. And they also said that, as I've mentioned, this plan last night is very light on details, and there are some guides that will be coming soon that will get into more detail about schedules and how things will work at sites. So it's a stay tuned. That's the high level overview, but feel free to look at the links that Carrie pasted in the chat if you have more questions, and then also submit your questions that we can talk with Dr. Matthews about next week. And I'll say that it's really paramount that we use our voices during this time. The most important role of the PTA is that of advocacy. And so it's going to be up to you and all of the other parents and educators and staff members and students at your schools to decide what it is that you need and what support you need to be successful during this fall, and to communicate that to the district, but also to your principals and the people in your schools, so that we can collectively solve all the challenges that are ahead of us and make sure that it's known what it is that we need. So that's the high level. The other thing that we wanted to just bring up quickly tonight before we go into these breakout sessions is the hubs and the pods that everybody's talking about. And there were a lot of questions and topics pre-submitted for this meeting that asked about that. Like, what is the PTA's role? What can we do? What can we not do? And so we wanted to just address that for a minute, and I'm sure it might come up in some of the breakout groups, but I'll start, and then if we've had some discussions with our board, I know there've been the president group, there's been some things coming out, but if one of our district board members wants to jump in, if I miss something, then let me know, but otherwise we can tackle some of this in the breakout groups. There are a lot of different efforts that are generically being called pods. Some of them are really separate from schools, with people who are trying to hire an in-person teacher and have their own curriculum. It seems the majority of them are just small groups that are trying to form to support learning in some way, or to address childcare needs, or if there are parents who are trying to support each other, because it's a lot to handle very small children while you're working, so they're trying to figure out something. Some are more virtual. There's a lot of different versions. I don't think they're all quite the same, but that's generally, there are different kinds of pods that are being talked about. And there have been a lot of concerns brought up about equity and opportunity, and making sure that anything that is structured is inclusive and is going to not exacerbate the gaps that are already existing and being amplified, frankly, during this pandemic. So we wanted to be really clear that PTAs cannot facilitate in-person learning. So we need to make sure that is clear. We can facilitate communication. We can support room parents with talking points about how we can work together as communities. We can facilitate virtual interaction between our families, and even, small groups if room parents want to coordinate virtual things like that. But we can't facilitate anything in person. There's a lot of liability with that. You'll see the links that Dr. Matthews sent out to you in your email tonight. There's actually a really great page about pods. There's like a Q&A. In fact, actually, I will share that link because I was looking at it right before the meeting started. I'll share that with you all if you'd like to look at it. I just put it in the chat box. And I'm not looking at the chat, so because I'm looking at some notes that I had here, so I don't know if there's anything popping up. But I just want to let you know that PTAs can't facilitate that. but there are a lot of needs. And I think one of the most important things for us to do as leaders in our schools is to show compassion and to understand what kinds of challenges all of our families are facing and say, I hear you, like that's really hard. Let's try to find solutions, and let's do it in ways that are inclusive and equitable and don't put anyone's health and safety at risk. But people are really stressed out. So I think listening, staying calm, hearing them say, we've got each other's backs, we're going to figure this all out together. We don't have to have it figured out on the very first day of school. We can have some time to build our community and address the needs that we have. And so I think if you can repeat that sort of a message, that will be really important, and that the power of PTA can be to bring everybody together and help find solutions that will be child-centered, that will be equitable, that will increase community, that helps everybody hear each other and support each other during this really uncertain, stressful time. And we can be connectors. And there are also, you've probably heard, the city has announced some community learning hubs for about 6,000 students. I don't know a lot of details about that. I know Matt Haney's been working on things. Commissioner Allison Collins has been really focused on this as well. And so there are people working on this, and I expect we'll see a lot more information coming out. So yes, exactly. Melissa, I just posted that. Community, connection, and communications. Absolutely. Great. So, and one other point I just noticed a note in here. Part of the reason why there aren't a lot of details shared yet is because our labor partners, like our educators and others, are working on an MOU and contract with the district. And so they can't share a lot of details until those things are worked out. So that's one of the reasons why we haven't seen a lot of details, but they hopefully will come soon. Okay. All right, that was a lot. So now we are going to do these breakout rooms. And so I wanted to share quickly the kinds of things that I heard in the questions that were submitted ahead of time, so that you know what kinds of things people were asking about. There were a lot of people asking about the pods, like I said. A lot of people were asking about the clarity of their role as a PTA in their schools, how we could creatively use spaces, how we can facilitate equitable learning. There are quite a lot of comments about how can we do this in an equitable way. And one question I know a lot of people have been thinking about, and that is, what about the people who are new to our schools, who have never been part of our schools at all, new kindergartners, 6th graders, 9th graders? How can we help them feel welcome and build community with them, help set their expectations? It's like starting a new job in the middle of the pandemic, right? Like, it's so crazy. So that's a thing that people are worried about. People are asking about how they can support the teachers in their schools as they're moving through this, how they can support instruction. There were some questions about translation for meetings and what the district will be able to support. When I saw that question, I sent an email to the translation department at SFUSD. I haven't received an answer yet, but I will let you know. That is also a question we are trying to figure out, is how we can effectively do interpretation through virtual meetings. And such. So when we get that information, we'll share it out with you. And there were also questions about how can we reshape our budget to meet the needs of our schools during this time. So those are some of the themes, and you can talk about them in these breakout groups. So let me explain to you how we'll do the breakout groups. I am going to share my screen with you so you can see this document. So we are going to, hold on one second. Okay. I'm going to put in the chat box. This is a Google Doc. We're going to do a big shared Google Doc. So you can click on that link, and I will also share my screen so you can see what it looks like. All right. So we're going to have 25 minutes with each other. I'm going to assign you into breakout groups, and you'll see when you say that you're getting sent to a room, it'll have the name of a room on it, so you'll know where you're going to take notes for your group. This is going to be a big shared doc that you can all refer to later that's going to have a bunch of ideas. And so the goals of this brainstorm is going to be to cover 3 topic areas. Get to as much as you can. If you don't get through them all, that's okay, but these are the 3 topics. looking for ways to support equitable access to distance learning support and resources, the kinds of things you've been hearing from your families, ways you can build connection and community, how you can communicate with each other. And then the third one is just more miscellaneous, like what are ideas on how to reshape how you're thinking about your budget? How could you fundraise during a pandemic, because you're trying to raise money to provide a lot of support the kids at your schools need. So those are the goals. And if you look down the document, you'll see all of these charts. And so you're all going to be in groups of 5 or 6 people. And so if you're in the Great White Sharks group, by the way, we named all of the groups after California wildlife, Bay Area wildlife. So that's what you'll be looking for. You'll come down and you'll just put notes in each of those 3 sections. And so when we break you up into groups, you're going to just
put notes yet. Don't put notes yet. Wait till you're broken into
wait
groups.
until you're assigned into a group. That's just where you will put your notes. So if you're in the Great White Shark group, you'll see it when I assign you to a room, and that's where you'll go and you'll introduce yourself to the people in your group. You're going to decide who's going to take notes while you all brainstorm. And then you can put your names next to your group name if you want to. You don't have to. I have a few group norms here, just making sure that we know all ideas are welcome, making sure that there's room for all the voices in your group to contribute, make sure you're keeping equity front and center, that you get really creative, there's no bad ideas, and then listen to understand everybody else in your group. Brainstorm through all these ideas. I'm going to send a message to all of the breakout rooms when there's about 5 minutes left. You'll see a notification that there's 5 minutes left, so you know. And then when there's 3 minutes left, I'll send another note so that you can start wrapping up, and then pick 1 or 2 top ideas that you can share out, and then just decide who's going to be the sharer when we all come back together. We'll have, we're going to have quite a few groups, and so it's going to be like a 1-minute share out. So really just pick the top idea that rose to the top that resonated with your group. And then you'll be able to access this document. I'll send it around by email tomorrow to everybody who participated, but also to the listservs. So you're not losing access to these. You'll have access to them as long as you want it. All right, are there any questions about how that's going to work? If there are, just unmute yourself and just ask them out loud. Wow, I explained it well, I hope then. Okay, great. So let's do, I think that there was some interest in having middle and high school. If you have a middle or high school group and you'd prefer to be with a group of middle and high school PTA members, I know it's not all just parents in this group, so please raise your hand, and do that by going to your name and doing like the little blue hand that gets raised when you hover over your name in the participant box, so that I know that you want to be in a special secondary school breakout room. And if you can do that right now, that would be super, so I can make sure that you get in the right place. And I'm going to stop recording right now also because we're moving to the breakout rooms.
Basics, we need to have devices and internet to make it equitable. And we also talked a lot about the importance of social emotional learning, and explored the idea of pods, or what it would look like to bring smaller groups of people together, maybe virtually for now, with the hope, that it will turn into in person, just fostering more connections in smaller groups in addition to our classrooms and other already organized groups.
Great.
Check.
Thank you. Next group. I think that's the California Sea Lions. Do you remember your group?
We took notes, but we forgot to have a reporter. Anybody want to volunteer, or am I it because I'm talking?
I think it's you, Julia.
Take myself. So one of our parents, we talked about creating virtual Hangouts for students. So figuring out a way we could send out a meeting link and have a parent lead maybe a fun activity, finding ways to do that where we're not compromising student privacy, but making it a fun, interactive way students could be involved with something after school hours to take some of the weight off of teachers, and also looking at parent support groups and just how important it is to talk to other parents, students with IEPs, some of our BSA groups, some of our other groups that we have, doing those virtually so that we keep those parent connections going.
Fantastic, thank you. All right, next group is Thule Elk. I don't see names listed, so I don't know who is part of that group.
Hi there. This is Annalie. I'm with George Peabody, 2 kids there. One of the things we had talked about was regarding supplies, and I think that touches upon the equity piece as well as engagement. One of the potential solutions is having the PTA help with gathering supplies and making sure that that's being offered to the kids that need it. Some kids may not need it, but maybe having some type of pickup for the kids that do, having, just the basics of composition notebooks, pens, pencils. Also in terms of engagement, having some really creative activities, especially for the kinders and first graders, that will need kind of that fun aspect of not just sitting in front of a screen. So in terms of supplies, maybe having a pickup option with the prepackaged supplies.
Great, thank you so much. All right, next group is, let's see, wasn't the bat raised? Is this the River Otters?
Oh, that's us, yeah.
Great.
I'm Dory Schroeder. I have a student at Lafayette Elementary. We have all of our notes in the doc, but one of the things we talked about was along the same vein as in the previous conversation is because we're relying right now so much on the digital, there might be value in providing the workbooks that used to be available at school, actually coordinating and having those made available for distribution. So every student has a physical workbook to use at home as well as the online learning. And then we also talked about in communication, having a method whereby all the families could opt into a two-way email communication tool so that they could communicate with each other, with teachers, with administration, and back and forth, as opposed to a one-way mode of communication from the administration out.
Great, thank you. Let's see, I think the next group is the San Francisco garter snakes. It feels so weird, everybody, to say all these names, but of all these animals, but the garter snakes, who's that group?
Hi, I'm Melissa. I'm from Rosa Parks, but our group had some good ideas. One of the things that came up was what happened a lot with distance learning was teachers kept getting a lot of calls like, I can't connect, there's this problem, what do I do? So we came up with an idea to have one parent, kind of like maybe a room parent, like push for room parents, and that would be the person that you can call when there's a technical issue or even other issues. It doesn't even have to be like during a Zoom call, just like have a parent that you can like filter all of your questions through, and then they can maybe relay them to the teacher so that they're not getting all the calls during their teaching time. And then another thing that came up was like maybe have a parent who can volunteer to say like, oh, I speak Spanish and I have tech skills, or I speak Spanish and I have this other skill, so that we can all work like as a community with our skills built together. Yeah.
Great. Great. Thank you so much. And I think you all captured all of these in the spreadsheet, but if you have anything that sort of comes out while we're talking through or you want to refine, make sure it gets in that spreadsheet and we'll make sure you all have access to that.
Michelle, Ryan Silvers from Denman, Mariloma said we can call them Zoom parents.
Nice. I think there's a lot of possibility in that. That's a great idea. Okay, thank you. So the next group would be the red-tailed hawks.
Hi, my name is Brandy. I'm at Sutra Elementary School, and our group talked about 3 things. First of all, making sure that we have translation at our meetings. I know at our school we have probably 2/3 of our parents are Cantonese speakers, so making sure we're having those at all our meetings. Secondly, to emulate the model that was created very quickly by Martin Luther King Junior Middle School, where right after the pandemic, they really activated their parents to go and call everyone just to see how they were doing. So really being intentionally about checking in with families, not just in our own circles of friends, but making sure that every family is getting some sort of call from a parent, sort of almost setting up like phone trees or text trees. Second, and the third thing was we really want to activate parents in our PTA to support Prop 15, Schools and Communities First. That would bring in $12 billion to the state of California, $800 million to the city and county of San Francisco, and that would increase SFUC's budget by 20%. So we see that as a big priority going forward. Thank you.
Great, thank you for all of those. And if people weren't here, if you didn't hear me at the beginning, I did put in a request to the translation department at SFUSD to find out how they're going to handle translation and interpretation requests during the fall when we're all doing virtual meetings. So great. And PTA, if you all don't know, has, as an organization, a statewide organization, has endorsed Prop 15. So feel free to push it through all the channels to get people to vote for that. All right, next group is the California Quails.
Hello, everyone. My name is Carla, and I'm going to actually read what one of our parents that was in our breakout room, he put something in the chat. He said, I am increasingly becoming aware we seem to be in a remarkably lucky position at Clarendon by virtue of having a very good parent-wide and staff communication platform with two-way communication. Without such a tool, all our efforts would be much harder. I happen to run run this, and if anyone else is interested, he'd be happy to help. So it was around communication. We had an incoming kinder parent and then a fifth grade parent, and then myself. And the conversation was about communication, about how to reach out to other parents, whether you wanted to create, a supportive parent environment or getting help during the day. And this incoming kindergarten parent is new to San Francisco Unified. So we talked a little bit about having orientations early, we need our school sites to be able to get information out to our incoming kinders, our incoming sixth graders, our incoming ninth graders, so they know what to expect because these are new school sites. So again, it's all about communication and supporting each other. How can parents do that? And if PTA cannot facilitate pod making, can we facilitate group platforms where people can talk to each other and have it be equitable in that sense that everybody gets a chance to have a voice? And also our students with IEPs or students that speak a different language. There are lots of parents as well that are in that same position. And lastly, I'm going to say somebody earlier in the chat had asked about if I become a PTA member, like if we're not on school site, what does that mean? And we have, I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, Michelle, I think we have 800,000 members of PTA. When we lobby at the federal and the local levels, that's a big voice. So the more people we have at each school site, it becomes bigger at the San Francisco site, bigger at our state site, and bigger at our national site. I'm doing the big. So please, tell your friends to become a member. That whatever small amount, $10 that you can contribute does help, because then your voice is heard, and we can push these great initiatives to get more funding, which is exactly what we need.
Thanks, Carla. Yeah, I don't know the exact number, but it's somewhere hovering around maybe above 800,000 members across the state of California. So it is a big voice for some of these advocacy efforts. Thank you. Good. And those of you who are putting ideas in the chat, they're great. And if you haven't put them in the spreadsheet, throw them in there too, so we can capture them later. Next group, American Kestrels.
Hi, I'm Monet, and I'm also a parent at Rosa Parks, like Melissa. I have 2 children there. So some of the things we've talked about have already been covered by other groups, but talked about organizing room parents and maybe getting some support from staff to make sure that there's room parents in all the different classrooms. And we're wondering about getting district level assistance with outreach to harder to reach parent groups that we've always struggled to reach, but now we feel like it's more important than ever. We also talked about offering Zoom meetings and community meetings for children and grown-ups and offering them at different times of day so that they could suit other people's different working schedules. And I think that's about it.
Great. Thank you. Stellar's Jays.
Hi, I'm Sarah. I'm also a Rosa Parks parent. And we started at the end of the list and worked backwards. So we spent more time talking about the budgets and fundraising and that stuff. And the other ideas and other topics that we came up with, other people have already said also. So I think that's a good sign, but I won't rehash those. In terms of a couple of sort of budget type ideas that we came up with, One was in terms of fundraising, I guess, and how we can maybe work with businesses, smaller local businesses, that especially ones that are owned by families in our schools, to try to have fundraisers that bring them business, and then some small amount of that comes back to the school. Like say you have a couple nights where any food you order from the restaurant would come back to you, doing those kinds of things. So partnering with restaurants owned by parents of the school. But then also in terms of like some of the really big businesses in San Francisco, like there's this sort of wealth of tech especially that seems like it could be a potential resource in terms of either approaching them with specific requests or finding out about matching, if they can increase matching for their employees giving to schools, how to try to leverage some of the wealth in the city that those businesses have, and getting it towards schools. I mean, I know Prop 15 passing will go a big way towards that, but that's not going to be immediate if it passes. So this would be another way to try to get some of those resources working for us.
Great, thank you very much. Next group is the Brewers Blackbirds.
Hi, my name is Karen, representing the Blackbirds. We were a middle and high school group, and I'm at Roosevelt Middle School. So I'll share three things. One is we talked about having a session for families to understand some of the tech tools, like how to use Zoom, how to use Google Classroom, and wondering if this is something that could be shared across PTSAs, whether the district could create some videos or things that might be helpful to families. Second thing is that we talked about how to utilize families, parents, and even high school and middle school students to support either small group instruction, tutoring groups, even tech support. Talked about high school students needing volunteer hours, and so if there's a way to help match them virtually with schools, that was one thing we talked about. And then the third thing is, at the very end, we were all like, how do we get in touch with each other again and share our email addresses? And so just wondering if there's ways that, and it sounds like you are planning to do this, Michelle, but just how to keep connecting people and sharing ideas. And our group was very interested in that. So thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Karen. And I just put a note because Abby had put a message in the chat of maybe as you all get started in your year, if there's a way to share like, hey, this is going really well. We could totally do another survey just like we have going now that will close this weekend. We could do another one, a few weeks into school, and then just share the data, just the raw data for everybody to look at if that's helpful. And we do have the listservs through the PTA. I know it's limited in that it's just a PTA, and there are lots more schools beyond PTA that all want these ideas too. And so we can brainstorm ideas for sharing that more broadly, but we are open to figuring out ways to make that happen. So as you have ideas, then please let me know. Bat raise got missed. Yes, let's do bat raise, and then we will move to the next group.
We're the Bat Rays. I'm Jenny from Sutra Elementary School.
Great.
Our group talked about how the PTA can support equity. There were a few schools that were immersion schools with underprivileged population, and we wanted to support parents who have IEPs, special ed, special needs, and how maybe PTA can restructure their budget this year in terms of supporting those type of children and shifting focus to maybe extra tutoring that is needed for kids that may be falling behind, and organizing parent groups to support those parents. In addition, we're PTA, but we're also parents, and unfortunately, PTA can't organize and endorse in-person meetings. But as parents, we can put on our parent hat and organize safe in-person meetups, such as like meet up at Great Highway to do a bike ride for a mile. Obviously, safe practices. But, PTA wouldn't necessarily be like promoting it, but as parents, we can do that.
Okay, thank you. And so the next group is the monarch butterflies.
Yes, Jessica Golm here, PTA president, Sunnyside Elementary School. We talked about community connection and, you know, from the thought exchange a couple weeks ago, social emotional health and well-being is like top of the list for all of our parents' concerns for kids, but also for ourselves. So the PTA is taking that as mission critical, and we talked about doing fun virtual things, like fun family-oriented virtual things. Some of those would be community events that are free, and then some of those would be fun but like fundraisers. So we talked about like a family trivia night where everybody, there's a company that does trivia nights. You group yourselves into teams, put all the kinder families together so that they can get acquainted with each other and welcome everybody back to the year. So we're going to hit the year off with that. We talked about doing a family fitness month where the PTA programs all sorts of group activities, but also one-on-one, like small group activities virtually, like a Zumba class or working with the Warriors, their dance team, or their basketball clinics that are all like free and available to take advantage of, or a capoeira class, or a Pure Barre class. Pure Barre West Portal is right by our school. So partnering with the community, because everybody needs to get out and we all need to do fun things together, and we need to take care of ourselves. So like, how do we support our community? And then tap into the exponential fun run ask of now support us in doing this fitness goal. And I'm trying to raise $300 for my school, or I'm trying to raise $1,000 for my school. So it's not on the burden of all the parents to support it. Like, we're just going outside of ourselves to bring money in. And the last one was a holiday telethon where each culture can present something about how they do the holidays. It's straight up Lawrence Welk variety show where kids can do their music performances, kids can do magic. We have, you know, a choir. We like just fun, silly stuff, and have it programmed for 3 hours, and then have that either take us to what we're missing in our annual goal, or be the gravy for the spring semester, and then just reevaluate our budget after that. So we're trying to be like lighthearted and fun and knit everybody back together, even though it's going to be virtual.
Great. Thank you. Great ideas. All right. I think that there was maybe a second monarch butterfly group, or I don't know if it was, there's Danica. Do you want to jump in and do your group?
I can jump in, Danica. I was the spokesperson for the sequel to the monarch butterflies. My name is Rebecca. I've got a kid at Aptus and one at Lowell. So I was in the middle school group. I'm like, our topics have well been covered tonight. So thank you, everyone. The only thing I was just going to add to is we had a case study of a Chromebook being very successful, which is awesome. And the idea that to make sure that technology is like all ready to go for the fall, if PTA can help with that. And then also to make sure that the Chromebooks work with any after school programming that's also happening, whether it's a YMCA group or Boys and Girls Club or something else, to make sure that like the kids don't need additional technology in order to participate in their before or after school programs. And then just streamlining communication. But I'm just like, I just want to say like the enthusiasm of the elementary school parents is super awesome. And once you're in middle school and high school, like everyone's just sort of like not thrown for a loop. So I just really appreciate all of you guys. Thank you very much.
Absolutely. Thanks for those ideas. There's lots of good ideas here. Thanks to everybody. Let's see. The Mylita crescent butterflies, is that a group?
Maybe that was mine.
Or maybe that was you guys. All right, let's see if nobody speaks up.
I can.
What was that?
I think that I didn't know how you pronounce that. So.
Oh, well, I don't know how to pronounce it either. I'm just reading it.
Do our note taker, Mission High, have a comment? Or we had a note taker, but I
can do that if you want, Michelle.
Yeah, there you go. Thanks.
Okay. Hi, I'm Deb, and I have a child on the waiting list at Mission and an 11th grader. And we talked about communication. We just feel like everyone is begging for communication. So one of the things that came up was going directly to the principal with some very specific questions and see where we can help to make sure all of these things happen, from letters going out to new families, letters going out to all of the families. We wondered about a forum for new families where you can talk to some staff and get your questions answered. Also, could we man our PTA email sites so that we could have any questions could come our way, a team of us could be answering to try to help keep parents coming up with answers. And then we wanted to make sure that the kids somehow were, high school kids and middle school. So we were going to ask about what clubs are active, and provided there are staff available with those clubs, maybe that would be a neat way for the kids to be kids to kids and have like interests to get them going. And then I think the only other thing as far as equity that came up, actually that was a different group, was that when you sign up for the PTSA, that you could also use a code instead of paying $10. We would have a bank that would cover anyone who didn't have the money to pay.
Great, thank you. I love the constant theme through all this is just everybody stepping up and just contributing as much as they can, to sort of a community feel like we're all just going to step in and do whatever we can during this time, it's great. Thank you all for those ideas. Western Tiger Swallowtails. I think we've got just a couple of more groups. So if we can just go through and just quickly get your ideas. So the Tiger Swallowtails. Is anybody still here for that group?
Michelle, I don't remember the name of my group. I thought it started with the B, but I'll go ahead and provide some feedback. Hi, everybody. My name's Kathy. Thank you for staying on and listening to all these great ideas. And I hope we can really work collectively and collaboratively to help each other as well as the kids at our schools. Our group was a small group. Well, they're all small groups, but interestingly enough, we had parents who were parents of 2 second-grade children. So we really did focus and dig into kind of what their experience was working with such young children on an online basis and with packets. And ultimately what rose to the top was that there really is a need to focus on trying to create small groups within the classrooms. Of course, the teacher would do that. And then there was even an example of an educator who would talk to the parents or send a message beforehand and say, today is your child's small group day. They will stay 15 minutes after class. And then she would put together the group for 4 or 5 children, and they would know that it was their special day and that they would get to meet with the teacher for 15, 20 minutes just to have that real small, intentional small group instruction. And that is a really interesting model that might work well. And again, we kept coming back to the fact that it really is important to incorporate some kind of small group model within the classroom. And we really think that's the way for the kids to remain connected in some way, and also just to address some academic differences that children have.
Thanks, Kathy. The Swallowtails, it looks like it's Sally. Sally, that was your group. Sally Blumenfeld, where are you? I don't know if anybody from your group is still here.
I'm here. I don't know who they appointed as spokesperson because I joined the group late.
Oh, so Jason and Cheryl, Gutharan, Claire, Tina.
I think we appointed Sally.
You're it, Sally. Go ahead.
Well, I think the group had a lot of great ideas about doing, Zoom get-togethers. There were a few kindergarten parents in the group, so they've actually already had some Zoom play dates with the kindergarten kids, And there were a lot of discussions about, just reaching out and the technology end of it, how I think at one of the schools, they had somebody on the PTA, I think, that actually handled some of the technology calls and was able to help solve any problems that people were having. I don't think we didn't get to the budget and fundraising part, but they took a lot of good notes on this Google Doc.
Great. Okay, the brush rabbits.
Okay. Let's see, we also had a lot of younger elementary student parents and even a K-1. So we spent some time, which is really nice that we have these breakout groups, like you're saying, just to share experiences. So we spent some time doing that, and a lot of great ideas have already been presented. One thing we were talking about was some teachers may have had a lot more experience and training, even professional development, just on their own doing that over the summer, and maybe others haven't done anything. So finding professional development within your own community at your school and supporting teachers, teaching teachers, was one idea. In terms of communication, people felt very well communicated too in the elementary schools, but we're looking for more feedback, and felt they got feedback best when there was some of that synchronous, meaning the one-on-one actually meeting with the teachers. And it was also important, we talked about for the younger kids, it sounded like I thought all younger elementary students got those packets of paper, but when they didn't have the digital learning, it sounds like not everyone got the packets. If they are doing packets, to make sure everyone gets those. And we didn't get to talking about fundraising, but just a plug, I think we do have a fundraising whole dedicated 411 Wednesday.
Yeah, we're planning to. Yeah, in about a month, we'll do one on fundraising. It's a little bit down the road.
Yep, so we're looking forward to that.
Great. Thank you. Let's see, and next group. Oh boy, that just. The Western Gray Squirrels.
Hi, I'm Helena. I'm representing Dolores Huerta Elementary School, and our group was, we just actually caught up with each other around what's happening in our school sites, but something that I shared was just the importance of getting in touch with administration and the principal, and trying to come up with a communication plan together. And so that's something that we've done, where we've actually committed to trying to send out communications like at least once a week, and so that we're doing it in collaboration with ELAC and PTA, so that everybody's on the same page about sending out information, and we're using all the channels that we all have access to, so we send out the same information. We thought that could be really helpful to provide equity and access to things when people don't know about it and they're hearing information in lots of different channels. And we talked about, again, building community and communication, and the community piece is really important, like we said, for new families, but also for existing families who look forward to certain school events that sadly will be very different. And so instead of looking at that in a negative way, being creative on how to create that space online. And so we have an event at our school called Baile, where we go dancing, but we talked about a dance party where we maybe break out into classroom groups and we're all dancing, and people can request songs, and there's different DJs in each classroom and fun things like that, so that we continue to have that community connection and fun, but also providing school spirit through PTA funds for materials like T-shirts for new families and kinder families, so that they feel connected to the school even though we might not be there in person.
Great. Thank you. Thanks so much. I think we've got, is it Bada's Pocket Gophers? Is there a group with that? I see some happening in the doc right now, so I think that's a group. Somebody? The Pocket Gophers group? Should I skip to the next one? Let's see, who else is not? Is there anybody else that we've missed? Any groups that we've missed?
I think I was pocket gophers. I'm
Oh.
populating the spreadsheet.
Oh, okay, great. Okay, perfect. Okay, I think we got everybody. This is all fantastic. Thanks for all your good thinking. And so we're over time. We had meant to keep this closer to just an hour, but thank you for the for coming and showing up and sharing your ideas. I'm going to send the link to this spreadsheet or to this Google Doc out on the listserv tomorrow, along with some other links from tonight, so that you have them. Remember to also fill out the surveys that we sent around earlier. You have until Sunday night. If you have any ideas you want to throw in there, and then we'll figure out a way for you to share ideas within the first few weeks of school, so that if you find things that are working, that we can all share with each other what's working. And then, finally, Commissioner Collins, would you like to say anything since you're here? I know you're trying to maybe just be a fly on the wall, but if you'd like to say something.
I am, but I did want to say these are so awesome. These are great ideas. I just chatted to Albert that I'd love to get a copy of the ideas, because I think some of them, I'd love to be able to provide a toolkit to all schools, even those that don't have PTAs, of some of these great ideas that they can do. And it's really school by school, but also some of them rely on us as a district and whatever we can do to support it. It's like not everybody's creating, recreating the wheel. And so I know also I wanted to let folks know that there's a lot of videos that we're loading on the website, if you haven't seen them, about how to log into Parent View, how to get your contact information correct. Like, I wasn't getting text messages, even though my phone number was in there, because it wasn't listed as a mobile phone. And so just one thing that you guys can all do to really help us communicate better is make sure parents have Parent View accounts. A lot of elementary parents, still don't have those. Middle and high, it tends to be more common, but get on Parent View, make sure that your contact information is correct, and make sure that your phone number, if you want to get SMS text messages, is correct, and it lists that we can contact you. And there are videos about how to do that from your phone if you have the Parent View app in your phone, and they're doing those in multiple languages. And I'd love it if you all could also tell me what other videos we need to be producing. Just the basic like how-to videos, that then when you guys are, doing parent meetings with families and helping them get connected, you'll have the resources, then you can just focus on the outreach. And, that's kind of what I want us to do, is really be stocking all those resources, but then you guys can be, sharing out. And we're also going to, share those out with CBOs and things like that. So thanks for the chance to share.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for that. In our follow-up email, we'll make a note about that, about Parent View and pointing people to videos. And if they have ideas as they're working with their families over these next few weeks, if there's something that people are struggling with, we'll point them. Allison, if they have an idea of something that's missing, do you want them to send it to us and we send them all to you, or should they send them somewhere specific?
What's great is, honestly, people don't know this. As a commissioner, we're not allowed to have meetings in private. So we're only allowed to talk to 2 other commissioners at a time. I always tell people, send all of us the same information. Definitely, communicate with me as well, because I'm a parent, and this is one of my things. I get, I really want to increase communication 2 ways, but it's great when you share with everyone. And so people can individually share, or if you guys wanted as a collective, to share a kind of a summary. Share it with each and every commissioner. Also share it with Melly Lau-Smith, who oversees the Students, Families, and Community Support Division, which I always have to think about when I say that. And then also share it with Deputy Superintendent Anikia Ford-Morthell, because she oversees principals who sometimes, so you're getting both sides, the people who support family engagement, and then also the people who manage the principals to make it happen. And I've also, told Albert, I'm very just appreciative of all the work that you guys are doing. And I'm always happy if you guys wanted to set up, smaller meetings or Q&As, or, just even brainstorming sessions of how we can partner with you on the other side to put some of those common mechanisms in place to make the work that you guys are doing easier, because we really need parents. And I really, really just appreciate just all that you bring to our schools. And I feel like you guys are an underutilized resource. and we need to get better at tapping into all that energy and all the resources and capacity that you guys bring to the school.
Thank you. I agree. These are some amazing people that show up every day for all of our families.
Michelle?
Yes.
I just wanted to add it was Commissioner Collins' big push to have the family link at sfusd.edu and phone number, which is 415-340-1716. It's in the chat. She pushed to have a line that somebody on the other end is a live person Monday through Friday, 9 to 1. So if you have a question or you need a resource or you know a family that needs food or has a question about a Chromebook, you can call that number between 9 and 1. It's been going all summer, and it's because Commissioner Collins made sure that happened.
Thank you.
Is that number in the chat?
Yeah,
yes,
the number in the chat. Mm-hmm.
And it's good too if you reach a family that you can't help and you wish you want to help them. You know, I know Commissioner Lopez is helping families get connected. She's calling that line with families. So you know what I mean? Like, you don't have to know everything now, but you can be a connector.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. And we will also, Allison, make sure we share with you the survey results we were mentioning before. That there's a ton of stuff in there already about best practices, and it's separate from this document we're working on tonight. And so we'll make sure you all get that too. Okay, so everybody, just a final reminder, that next week, next Wednesday night at 7:30, we're having a town hall with Dr. Matthews. Invite all of your school communities to join. He'll talk about the plan that they just adopted last night for the fall and just answer questions. Get your questions in by Sunday so that we can send them to him ahead of time. So we'll see you then, and then we'll also send out links to the 411 Wednesdays that are going to be coming up the following couple of weeks after that, and we'll keep these going weekly, you know, for the foreseeable future, because there's a lot of needs right now that you all have told us that you have. So we'll keep doing it. So thank you everybody for coming, and have a good night. And we will.
Michelle?
Yeah. What was that?
I said thanks.
Oh,
see y'all next week.
All right. Bye, everybody.
Bye.